Hey everybody, Corey here for my videos on U squared by Price Pritchett, which is a high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. And it's a very short book. It's got lots of 1 or 2 page chapters that talk about the way that we can approach a goal to achieve a quantum leap rather than just an incremental steps in success. And we're working through this chapter by chapter, and I'm reading it and then just talking about the insights that I get from it. So this chapter, we're looking at ignoring conventional approaches. And he says, get ruthless about trying something different. Ordinarily, we achieve conventional growth because we think along conventional lines. We experience reasonable performance gains because we rely on reasonable approaches. We find ways to make modest improvements in our level of success because we go looking for nothing more. Quantum leaps require you to abandon the status quo. Instead of once again trying what you've always done, maybe even with more intensity and determination, ignore the usual. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. So this is the concept that comes up throughout the book, and obviously is highlighted here at the beginning, is that if we do the same thing that we've always done before, we're always going to get the same or similar results to what we achieved before. If we do the same thing with a little bit more intensity, we may get slightly better results, but ultimately we're going to see small incremental gains that are going to plateau at a certain point, and it's not what we're looking for. A quantum leap requires us to abandon conventional thought, to get paradoxical in the way that we look at things, and to create new mental and thought and behavioral patterns that are going to give us a completely different result. And this book gives us the support that we need to do this, and it gives us the insights, and it gives us the ideas that help us to get through this, whereas ordinarily we probably wouldn't be able to do that by ourselves. This is why it's such a powerful little book, and I absolutely love it. The more that I read it and share these insights with you, the more I'm understanding it myself. So it says, look for a paradoxical move. For example, consider reversing your field. Try being illogical, ricochet. If you're trying to climb over the wall, open the door and walk through. If you're pushing against the river, try going with the flow. Use finesse instead of effort. You must do something new. So we've got to get outside the box. We've got to be willing to try new ideas and consider reversing our options, reversing the field, and accepting that we're going to need to be slightly what we consider to be illogical, which later on down the line will probably start to seem completely logical. The tendency when you start out or begin to level off in your performance is to go back to the basics and do what you do best. But doing what you do best can be the worst thing you could do. It really doesn't matter how well you can do something if it's the wrong thing to do. So I've taught tennis. I've been a tennis coach for years and years, and I teach people, and we get this. I say to the kids that I teach, you hear this, practice makes perfect all the time. And I say to the kids, practice doesn't make perfect. If you're practicing the wrong thing, all you're going to do is get better at doing the wrong thing. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. We have to practice doing the right things and not the wrong things. So this is exactly what he's saying here, is when you start to begin to level off in your performance, the tendency is to go back to the basics and do what you do best. But doing what you do best can be the worst thing, because it doesn't matter how you do something if it's the wrong thing to do. And in this, he means the wrong thing is that you're going to just see more of the same. We don't want to do that. Faith in the familiar sets a trap, and you spring it when you reinvest yourself in what logically seems like it should work, because it usually worked in the past. And we're going to talk about this more in preceding chapters, and this idea of faith and how the the emotion of faith is going to play a big part in pulling us through and getting us through the obstacles and moving us closer to this quantum leap that we're looking to achieve. We have to start beginning to have faith in the unseen forces, faith in the forces greater than ourselves that are wanting us to succeed in order to help us through. And in the beginning, we're not going to see those forces, and we're not going to feel them being there. And it's going to be faith that's going to help us to, faith and belief that we're going to do this. It's going to help us to come through. So faith in the familiar sets the trap, and you spring it when you reinvest yourself in what logically seems like it should work, because it usually worked in the past. To make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut where you've been running. Second guess your routines. Overcome addiction to your old methodologies and set new patterns. Be willing to be open to new ideas, new patterns. Second guess what you're doing. Look at the results that it's achieved for you in the past, and understand that it's only going to give you the same results in the future. We have to be willing to dig a little bit deeper and try new ideas. And ultimately, those new ideas are going to result, for the most part, in failure. But that's okay, because as long as we continue to take action, those failures are going to act as a map to point us in the right direction. And when we understand that and we act in faith that everything is going to come good, then failure no longer acts as failure, it acts as a mechanism to create success for us. If the things you're doing have quit working, then stop doing them. Focus on what does work. If you'll just quit what you've been doing instead of doggedly doing it harder, you at least create an opportunity, some white space to do something else. Quantum leaps come when you seek the elegant solution. Look for an approach characterized by simplicity, precision, efficiency, and neatness. It won't be as complex or time-consuming as your present struggle. Overall, it will be less demanding of your energies and emotions, and it probably will not be familiar to you. U2 calls for a fresh perspective, a deft move, a path of least or less resistance. There's a way you can do more with less. So this is another key idea that's going to run through this U² manual, and that is that we don't have to do more in order to achieve more. We can do less in a way that's characterized by simplicity, precision, efficiency, and neatness, and that is less complex and time-consuming than our present struggle. And right now, we might not know what that is, but we don't need to worry about that. Right now, we're just building the idea that this is possible and gaining an understanding that the path we're going to take is one that's going to be a little bit of a wild ride, one that's going to seem illogical, that's going to seem paradoxical, that at times is going to look like we're moving backwards and that it's a little bit crazy. But U² calls for a fresh perspective, a deft move, a path of less resistance. So this is an idea that I want us to keep in mind all the way through as well, is that we're always looking for a path of least resistance. That's not to say that everything should be easy and we should just flow right through it, but it means that it shouldn't be complex, and it shouldn't be difficult, and it shouldn't be inefficient. Like the words he says here, characterized by simplicity, precision, efficiency, and neatness. This is the key characteristics that we're looking for in the behavior, the behavioral patterns and the behavior that we want to create when we're going for this quantum leap. And again, the final part here that I want to go back to is that he says to make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut where you've been running. Second guess your routines. Overcome the addiction to your own methodologies and set a new pattern. Start creating new patterns, new ideas, new methodologies, and start second guessing what you have been doing in order to create the results that you've got to this point. So that's the conclusion and the end of this chapter, ignoring conventional approaches. I look forward to speaking to you next time. If you're enjoying these, then please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be uploading videos all the time, and they're going to be a lot of good information, a lot of useful information, and a lot of practical information as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.